Hey guys, how's it going? So I am here for to announce the winners of the giveaway that I announced a couple weeks ago, and also to respond to the assumptions I got. I ended up getting quite a few different assumptions, so I'm looking forward to responding to those. But I just wanted to start out by thanking everyone again for all of your kind words on that video, and comments on that video, and in other places. And thank you all again for just being here. It's still very surreal that this many people have decided that they want to listen to me ramble on about books. So anyway, I just really appreciate that you're all here. But anyway, without further ado, I will get to the winners of the giveaway. So how this is gonna work in terms of me getting your address to have the book sent, I'm gonna leave my email address in the description. And I'm gonna ask that the people who win just email me, let me know who you are, and that you're emailing me about the giveaway, and just give me your address so I can have Amazon send the book to you. So that way you don't have to leave your address in a comment, on a public comment, because that can make people uncomfortable. The person who won The Case for God is Emma Abe Books. Emma Abe Books has a channel, which I have just discovered and started watching. I also want to recommend her channel. She's great. Lots of nonfiction, really intelligent commentary on the books, so I'll leave a link to her channel as well. But so Emma, if you could, just email me. I'll leave my email address in the description. And I will have that sent as soon as possible. And then the winner of the Liars Club is Jason of Old Blues Chapter and Verse, who needs no introduction here. I talk about him all the time. He's a good friend of mine. So, Jason, you don't probably really need to email me. You can probably just Vox me your address, and I will get that sent. So congratulations, Emma and Jason. I hope you both enjoy those books. They are two books that I love very much, so I look forward to what you guys think of them if you talk about them on your channel. So, anyway, so that's the giveaway. But now I will progress to the assumptions. So there weren't too many, and some of them sort of repeated the same themes, so I won't necessarily be talking about every single one if any one of them covers an assumption that someone else wrote in their assumption. But anyway, I'm not going in any particular order. As the first assumption I have here is by Karen Kutsumbaris, who is a new commenter, I think. Karen assumes that I am an avid reader and well-versed in commenting my thoughts on the books I read. I guess. I have been doing this channel for 2 years now, so I'd like to think that I have some experience with it. I did, I think, have a couple of very good English teachers who taught me how to write very well, and I think learning how to write and learning how to speak well are basically the same thing. So, I had my favorite teacher in high school who was my English teacher, and then one of my favorite professors in college, and they were both very particular about, teaching their students to write well. The professor in college would spend the first 10 to 15 minutes of class just going over sort of grammatical and stylistic mistakes that we had made in papers to improve our writing. And so I think those two teachers in particular had a big effect on how I express myself, both in writing and on my BookTube channel. So I would like to say yes, although I don't mean to be self-aggrandizing. And obviously I am an avid reader. I mean, that goes without saying. Too Tight Lautrec said that I'm extremely brave for opening up comments about what people assume about me. I guess, I think I have one of the loveliest comment sections of any YouTube channel, at least any, a lot of big YouTube channels get a lot of vitriol, but I feel like when you're a small-ish booktuber or a midline booktuber, comment sections tend to be much more kind and generous, and so I kind of was working on that assumption when I released the assumptions about me, and also I think I have a pretty thick skin, so even if people were to be unpleasant, I think I would take it in stride, but no one was unpleasant in the assumptions, so, Next is an assumption from North of the Equator 1, who said, erudite and incredibly well-read, not assumptions, fact. Thank you, I suppose. I try. The next one is from Elsa Warhala, Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. They said assumption that I'm a psychology major. Yeah, I suppose I am. In case I haven't said this in a while, I am currently working on a PhD in social psychology at Iowa State University. I do research on political psychology, the psychology of political ideology, as well as the psychology of how people justify unfair socio-political systems. So that's broadly what I'm working on. I'm also doing some more. I'm also starting to expand my horizons to some more practical stuff. Like I just submitted an article to a journal looking at how effective quizzes are on improving student performance in classes. So I also do stuff like that. But the political psychology is my main focus. Byways in Bookland. Hello, Jason. He said, I am going to assume that your family heritage means a lot to you for reasons you may or may not share. Well, yeah, I would say so. My dad is from the Czech Republic, and I've always sort of been proud of my Czech heritage, even though I don't think I know as much about the Czech Republic and Czech culture as I would probably like. And I don't speak Czech, although, you know, my dad could have taken care of that by teaching my brother and me Czech when we were young, but, so I don't know Czech language, I don't know Czech culture as well as I would like, I don't know Czech history as well as I would like, but I am pretty proud of being Czech. I mean, the Czechs are a really interesting country, just given how small the country is and how small the population is. And when you compare that to the sort of impact that they have had, which hasn't necessarily been, you know, mind-blowingly huge, but it has been really, really big when you just take into consideration how small a country it is. Like the fact that there are 3 major composers in the Western canon of music who come from the Czech Republic, and the fact that Czech is like a major language in the operatic repertoire, and the fact that Czech writers are like well known across the world, and the fact that you know, Czechoslovakia, back when it was Czechoslovakia, just got a lot of notoriety for what went on there. The fact that it even had that big of an impact, given its size, is pretty remarkable. So, anyway, that's not me being nationalistic. I find the country that my dad comes from pretty interesting. Bookish, Brian from Bookish, his assumption, he says, my assumption about you is that you are handy at fixing things. Minor car repair, home fixes, etc. That's hilarious, actually, because I am not. I'm far from it, actually. I can't do any of those things. My first recourse if I have a problem with my car or my house is to call my dad, because he is good at those things. My next recourse is just to not do anything and hope that the problem fixes itself and doesn't cause me any issues, because it's too much of a headache for me to figure it out. So, no, that is not a correct assumption, unfortunately, Brian. Much as I wish it were. I mean, that would be great, but it's just not the case. Next is Trip 1 had an assumption, and he said, oh, he also said, I'm a psychology major. Well, yes, I've gone over that. Next, A Little Book Life commented and said, my assumption is that because of your name, you have Czech roots. Yes, I do. My first name is Lukáš. That is the Czech version of Luke or Lucas, whichever you prefer. I have also been called Luki and Lukášku and Lukinku at various points, and Lukáši and Luki. It's kind of like Russian, where there are always like 5 names for people. Yeah. So yeah, Lukáš is a Czech name. Satola, my last name in the Czech Republic, would be Shotola, and my middle name is Karl or Karel, which is Charles. So Lukáš Karel Shotola, which would be my Czech-sounding name. Jay Shea said, I assume you mime conducting the operas you listen to at home. I actually don't mime conduct the operas I listen to, but I do very much visualize myself as a singer performing the arias that I listen to. I especially have a weakness for the soprano arias. I always imagine myself either dressed in male clothes, just impersonating a woman, or actually dressed like a woman, singing, Tosca or something like that, because I love the soprano arias. Next, Paraquito said, I assume you like the smell of cinnamon toothpaste and your favorite verse form is the Sestina. I've never smelled cinnamon toothpaste, but I do like the smell of cinnamon, so I guess there's that. And I'm actually not a huge fan of Sestinas, although I haven't read that many, so perhaps I shouldn't say anything. But I've never been all that into them. They always sort of struck me as being kind of all about just sort of word choice and language games more than like real crafting real good, insightful poetry, I guess. But yeah, anyway. The next assumption comes from Made with Books. Hello, Madeline. Madeline says, after just seeing you ice skate, I'm going to assume you have other hidden talents, maybe something crafty like Jason with his knitting. I don't know, I don't know how we define hidden talents, per se. One thing I will say is I have always been really, really good at pronouncing difficult words. As long as I hear them. If I read them, then I'm going to pronounce them terribly. But if I hear them, I can almost 100% of the time say them perfectly, no matter how weird and convoluted they are. Unless they have, like, vowel or consonant sounds that I physically cannot produce. As long as all the sounds in a word are sounds that I can produce, then as long as I hear the word, as long as I hear someone say the word, I can say it pretty easily. That's sort of the only immediate talent that comes to mind. I guess I'm also pretty good at statistics, but, you know, that's kind of a given when you're in grad school for psychology, so there's that. Next, Gail Dowdy said, your guess is I'm Czech, and yes, in case you didn't notice. And Gal also said that he's Bohemian, and anyone who doesn't know, Bohemia, Czech Republic technically has two sort of halves to it. There's Bohemia and there's Moravia. Moravia is the more eastern part. Bohemia is the part of the Czech Republic with Prague, and it's a bit more urbanized. Moravia is a bit more rural, although I don't think that distinction is that hard. But I think there's a subtle accent in Moravia, between Moravia and Bohemia. But yeah, my dad's from Prague, so I am also Bohemian. Anna's Books said, I assume you never have enough bookshelves. You would be right, I never do. I always buy new bookshelves, thinking now my life is going to be changed, and I'm going to have my books all nicely stacked on my shelves together, because I'll have enough room, and it never happens. There's always like 5 books that don't fit, right? It's never even that many books that don't fit. It's always like 2 or 3 or 4 or something. Yeah. Next, Britta Bowler said, I assume you like crossword puzzles but hate Sudoku and you prefer ball pens over fountain pens. I actually don't really do crossword puzzles or Sudoku, although if I had to choose one, I definitely would go with crossword puzzles. Sudoku has been something I have never been able to wrap my mind around. But if I were to do one, it would definitely be crossword puzzles. And yeah, I would say I definitely do prefer ballpoint pens. I used to really like fountain pens, but now I just see them as a bit annoying with how when you first write stuff, it's always kind of like can get smeared if it doesn't dry for a second. That now kind of annoys me, and I prefer ballpoint pens. Also, ballpoint pens tend to be cheaper, and I have a knack for losing writing utensils, and so because I lose so many writing utensils, I just buy up a ton, and that's much easier to do if I'm buying cheaper ones, and ballpoint pens are a bit cheaper. Joe Smith said, I'm assuming that you intend to travel extensively one day, perhaps to the birthplaces of some of your favorite writers. Yeah, definitely. I would love to go to wherever Wallace Stevens was born, and also to the James Merrill house, I think would be really cool. But aside from that, I mean, also, I would love to go to I believe there is sort of a plaque commemorating J.R.R. Tolkien at Oxford University that is placed at Oxford for everyone who was a professor there. I would love to go see that, and I would love to go to J.R.R. Tolkien's grave. I don't know about his house, though, but yeah. So definitely I do. And also just want to travel in general, especially more around the U.S. and the national parks in the United States. And I would also love to visit South America. South and Central America. It's just the landscape in those areas seems really interesting and kind of almost mythologically beautiful. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just am very drawn to the landscape of South America. So, yeah, I definitely do want to travel. Dane Reed said, I'm going to assume that you have at least a passing familiarity with a couple of non-English languages. it depends on how generously we interpret passing familiarity. I did take 4 years of Spanish. I remember hardly any of it, but, you know, I guess that's familiarity. I took a semester of French in college, which I did much better in terms of, like, my grades, and, but still, I don't remember very much, and, you know, I'm vaguely familiar with some of the aspects of Czech, but I know a few phrases, but I wouldn't be able to make my way around Prague or anything like that. So, I don't know, it depends on how generously you interpret passing familiarity, but I suppose maybe. And we have Lillian Niesvander, hello, who said, my favorite assumption and fact about you is that you have a capacious love of learning. I would like to think that I do, given that I'm getting a PhD. Most of the nonfiction that I read outside of my studies in school tends to not be related to psychology, and some people have found that strange, that I don't want to read that much about psychology outside of school, but really, like, while I'm reading stuff that I don't have to read for school, when I'm not reading articles and such, I would rather be sort of expanding my horizons and learning about different areas of the world than just, you know, learning even more about the stuff that I spend all day thinking and talking and reading about. So yes, I think I do. And then lastly, Peg over at the History Shelf, hello, said, my assumption about you is that you like Civil War history. And I do. I just this year watched the Ken Burns documentary about the Civil War and was hooked. I haven't read much about the Civil War yet, but I want to. I have a few books on it, so you will be the first to know when I do. Yeah, so I am definitely wanting to get more into the Civil War. So anyway, those are all the assumptions. Thank you all for leaving assumptions. Thank you all for entering the giveaway. And Emma, don't forget to email me, and Jason, don't forget to send me a Voxer message. And anyway, I will talk to you all in my next video, and thank you all again for being here, and I hope you have a nice week. Bye, guys.